giving up last night, but I'm sure tonight was a little harder, so thanks for being here this evening. We'll start off with a few introductions. I'll kind of do some details, walk through some stuff. For those of you I've never met, look around the room, I recognize quite a few of you. Dave Mundy, I'm the superintendent, the very, very fortunate superintendent of Sheridan Schools. This is the greatest job in the world. You'll hear me say that all the time. I was fortunate to be able to come back here, and there's nobody more happy and blessed in that than me. So I will spend tonight, we're going to answer some questions, but I do want to introduce a few members of the team that have a lot to do with this. First, if I'm not mistaken, we have 2 current school board members. You guys want to say hi real quick and everything? I'm putting you on the spot, like I guess I forgot to text you to say, hey, I'm going to have you say hello if you want to. Yes?
Yeah, and one of the Green Township seat, well, one of them. So glad to be here. We're excited to have Dave. It's just good stuff.
Thank you, sir.
Nancy Boone. I'm thrilled to see everyone here tonight, and there are so many exciting things going on here.
And I appreciate all they do too. We've got a lot of stuff going on, as you'll see tonight. I'm going to do a couple other introductions of my team that's here this evening, and then they're going to actually make me use a microphone tonight, which is a nightmare for me, by the way, because if you notice, I will pace all over the place. So if I get pulled by that cord more than once tonight, you're welcome to laugh. It will not be the first. I'm perfectly cool with that. So Lee, Leslie, you guys want to say hi and admin? If you're admin or if you're here in my office, at least introduce yourself so people know who you are.
I'm Lee Joseph, I'm the technology director.
Leslie Price, compliance officer. I'm Melissa Hampton, I'm the assistant principal at the high school.
Kent Davis, middle school principal.
Rick Davis, high school principal.
Kim B, HR.
Good. All right, now I go. Oh, Val and Melissa, okay.
And short people are over. I'm Mrs. Roberts, I'm Valerie, principal of the elementary, and Melissa Hoffman, assistant principal.
Now I didn't miss anybody. Okay. What we're going to do this evening, gang, is I'm going to go through, I know what I'm trying to do tonight is there's a whole lot of questions. And there's a whole lot of concerns with what's going on in the community, and especially how we look in terms of size and how we're doing with spacing. And so we'll give about an hour, 45 minutes worth of information. But gang, I'm here because as everybody that does know me in this room, we will answer any question we can for you tonight to the best of our ability. And if we can, I'll gladly get you an answer too. But as we kind of go through the next couple slides, what we're going to hit tonight is I'll talk to you about demographics. And I will tell you even there's some brand new news hot off the presses tonight that I'll share with you too. Which, by the way, we are going to record tonight, and then I will post this PowerPoint over the next couple days. That's for people that like to take pictures. I will gladly post it up there and make it easy on you at that time. So we're going to go through where we're at in class sizes. Because being a small school, class size is huge to us with some of these new neighborhoods and stuff coming in. We're going to talk about one entity. We just found out more information today, like I was saying. We're going to talk about what we're doing in terms of growth and what we're already doing in planning. Many of you have seen there's a big pile of dirt over at the high school. It is going to turn into something more than just dirt. I swear it will at some point. It's just right now there's a lot of dirt over there going in. We're going to talk about some of the safety measures. Obviously, it's just crazy to think about that in this day and age, we have to talk about safety as much as we do. But there's been a whole lot going on. Dr. Hampton and Mrs. Price have really worked with the team and Officer Weir and done a lot of good safety stuff these last couple. But also to let you know, there's part of a plan that we look at, an overall plan that we do. And then we kind of wrap things up because really we'll leave with some positives, and some real positives in terms of we hired 19 new teachers this year, and there's some really cool information about that. And I get asked all the time about how our solar is performing, so I figured we'd at least share just a quick slide on that tonight too. So let's talk about where we're currently at in everything. Right now, everybody's aware in terms of the town, we have basically 4 new neighborhoods that are being approved. Now, I will say this a million times over, the board's heard me say this a ton of times, go ahead, Willie, a ton of times. It is not my job to promote one neighborhood one way or the other. That's not what I'm here to do. If the town moves forward with neighborhoods, that's their call. But what my job is to do is to work with the admin team and work with the local community and do what I can to prepare for students coming. That's what my job is to prepare for growth, to prepare for changes when they come into play. So I want to be very clear, there's not one political part I'm taking here in terms of saying yes or no, we should do this. I'm just giving you facts and figures. And right now, what we're looking at, there are 4 basic neighborhoods that are coming into play. Obviously, the newest one they've kind of started to look into at the town level is the one on Mule Barn and the one on 226th Street. We have the one behind us and the one across the road. All in all, you put those together, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of about 700 homes. I will tell you though here through the next couple things, we are well aware of this. The town on this part has done a tremendous job of keeping us in tune and letting us know what's kind of coming and what we're looking at. So, as we talk through some of these numbers, we do a demographic study, which I'll talk about here in a second. These numbers and this planning have been in our numbers that we're looking at down the road. And the hard part for me is, and everybody that sees me at school, I love kiddos. I love being in school. That's my favorite part. So when I have to talk numbers, it's just weird to me because, we don't do numbers during the day most of the time. We take care of people. But I know here tonight, because of where some of you are, we're looking at a situation that's dictated by numbers as it's coming up. So we have basically the 4 new neighborhoods. To be fair to our town, as of right now, there are no other neighborhoods to be plotted through the town. And I'll talk why that's different in a minute and why that's important. If Kim and I all of a sudden decided to start our own neighborhood and build one, it would be through paperwork and everything else. You're 2 years in the process of us doing paperwork. So do you understand why that's important to me too? That means knowing right now that what's been approved by the town, I know in the next 2 years there's nothing else coming. Please also look at the top line. It's the most important part to me that I've been looking at. The Mule Barn project, if it goes forward, it is an 8 to 10 year build out. In other words, there's a big difference between what we're dealing with here and what Westfield dealt with, because that's what I get asked all the time. And I will tell you guys, I'll tell you everything I get asked. The one thing I will tell you, I will be as honest and upfront, because if I did tell something that was honest, I couldn't remember that later, so it's just much easier for me to just tell you where we stand with everything. That 8 to 10 year build out is important to us, because that correlates with about the other ones are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood, give or take 8 years-ish. Maple Run, let's use that for example. Maple Run started over about 6-7 years ago, and it's just now getting finished. So that puts in perspective what we're planning for in terms of build out, time, everything else. I'll use this as an example because I've talked about it in the past. When I was and why some of these things are important to us, I was in Westfield as an administrator for a while in central office. At that time, Westfield and the schools were working together to build a lot of infrastructure. I'll give you a good example. When Monon Trails Elementary was built, there was a lot of excess piping and water lines put in, which then allowed Chatham Hills to grow very, very, very fast. Everybody that's here knows what we don't have around here that's not going to allow us to move very fast is infrastructure. We don't have water lines and we don't have sewer lines, so it's going to take even longer for some of these projects to get off the ground, to get going, because when the Chatham Hills came to us when I was at Westfield, or even Bridgewater there down by Shamrock Springs, the sewer lines and infrastructure was there. It allowed them to go quicker. Again, that's why we are so different than what they had south of us, because we don't have that. And that has to be put in, the roads have to be built, et cetera, before really houses start impacting what we do. Lee, if you will, please. Let's talk numbers. The next couple slides are straight up numbers for everybody. What everybody doesn't realize, if you look at the year 2010 and where we were at that time, we were actually 49 students more when we opened this building in the district than we are right now today. And there's another caveat that's in there too, and I'll show you in a minute too. So everybody can understand why there's half numbers on there. Remember, we used to have half-day kindergartens. Kids would come morning and afternoon, and then we had to double them at time to have the total numbers. So we have dropped in students. And that is a byproduct that I say is what's awesome about this town. And again, I'll go to that in a minute too, talking history and stuff. But we are actually down 49 students as of last year, end of the year, than we were when we built this building. A couple other just facts and figures to look at too to kind of help carry the conversation. Let's talk about true numbers in classes right now. So the top chart shows you, that is on August 22nd, our actual head count on August 22nd, the top ones compared to the demographic study. And the reason I keep bringing up the demographic study, okay, everybody in Hamilton County does a demographic study. We all do the same company, they all come in and do it, and they're all pretty darn accurate. Are they all within one? Not, some years they have been, I guess. But I will tell you, even the one I used in my last district in the middle of COVID was within 20 of where we were too. So they're pretty darn accurate when they come to stuff. They take into account, that demographic study, again, takes into account those neighborhoods I showed you a few minutes ago when they were up there. But what I compared, the top chart kind of shows you what their estimates were compared to where we actually are. So that's the estimates, the top chart, the demographic for 22, compared to where we are. And you can see the biggest influx we've had is 6th grade. We had a bunch of 6th graders that moved in, and I think, Mr. Davis, if I'm not mistaken, we had several from Westfield and stuff that moved up north. Which means we expect a basketball championship in 4 years. Actually, I can't say that. That's not recruiting. Take that off the camera later. So you kind of see, now kindergarten and 1st grade numbers, I have to admit, they fluctuate all the time. And that's because we have one of the luxuries most schools around us don't have. We have a daycare and we have preschool right in this building. So that allows some of our kids to go back and forth and maybe start earlier and not start as early, everything else, because all they can do is walk across the hallway and go to preschool, which is great. I mean, first kindergarten when they go, excuse me. So our kindergarten first aid numbers, they fluctuate sometimes when we go. That's why you see that there. And then the other thing I would say, the bottom chart shows where we were at September of 21 last year, like September 8th, I think I took the date. September of last year compared to that August 22nd date. The reason I rolled the number around, obviously I can't do kindergartners, so I have to compare graduating seniors to incoming kindergartners. And if you see there too, we are pretty darn consistent in our growth across the board when we start looking at numbers. So in other words, it has allowed us to be able to judge what we're going to get because those numbers are pretty darn consistent across the board for us. I'm going to show one more, then I'm going to stop and ask questions on it. See if there's any questions first. Let me show the next one if you will too. This is a fact that most people don't realize. We have 153 kids that aren't in Sheridan school limits that come here. That's awesome. So many of these are here with their parents that work here, and many are, that decide to come to the smaller school. But that is important to remember when we start talking space. We have 153 kids. If I had to tomorrow, I don't have to let those in. We choose to because frankly, if we didn't have those 153 kids, we'd be down even more than what we were from those 59 that we had a little bit ago that I showed you on that chart. So please know we get lots of transfer kids. Most are teachers' kids and stuff, absolutely, and that's great, and we're fine with that. But we do get quite a bit of transfer kids that come in too. And then, I'm sorry, I'm going to do one more and then we'll do questions on numbers because I think the next one is yes. So here's that demographic study I talk about and where we're at in terms of numbers, where we go with growth, and then we'll get into more some of the conversations on what we're doing to take care of this. But this is my last real number slide, if you will. Here's what we're monitoring. There are 2 sections in my life that mean a lot right now. I look a lot at the year 26, 27 to kind of see where we're going to be. Because frankly, the way projects work, and many people in here are better at construction than I am, but if you're doing construction, I got to start looking 2-3 years ahead, to start planning on what we're going to do. So if I had a big number coming up 26, 27, I start panicking a little bit, but we don't. My biggest panic up there, as you can see, comes to the end of that chart when you start looking at 31 and 32. Now that's when we start seeing real growth. But I want to go back to, that growth's about 200 kids, correct? I mean, that's here. It's give or take, I think it's like 190 something. But that goes back to, if I had an issue, a huge issue, I could always not have outside transfers and everything else. We have all kinds of options we can do and look at. My point being is, with numbers, let's do this before I go to that. Any questions on these numbers part so far? Because I know I can throw a lot out there and I don't wish to confuse anybody with that. I'm just simply doing, these are charts and graphs, but I do think it's good to see the picture of the amount of stuff we follow and what we do. We use these things all the time when it comes to stuff. So what does this mean to your kids, because that's what you care about in terms of class size and everything else coming up and what we're planning to do. Right now, let's do elementary first, and I think that's our next slide. Right now, if I had to, I have central offices here. We have a lot of options and opportunities here, but I could use 6 classrooms for kids tomorrow morning if I needed to. But we'd have to kick central office out, but that's all right, because I'd much rather be out in the classroom seeing kiddos and everything else too. The rest of my staff, you guys would be homeless, but we'd find you a place, I promise. But we have 6 classrooms. Do that simple. Only 20 kids in each classroom. That's 120 kids I can take in this building tomorrow and not affect class sizes. And not grow those class sizes beyond the nice class sizes we're used to having. Now, the only thing I can't control when I say that, obviously it's not going to be 20, 20, 20, 20, 20 in every grade, as we go through, but you get the theory there when I start looking at it. The numbers that we're really monitoring, here's where we're at. Those are real numbers to where we're at. And mind you, when it says 21 students, I realize some of those are like 21.5 and 21, I do. But you have to remember this. Sometimes we have students that are in special programs that aren't in the classroom. So sometimes when you see 22, it's not actually even 22. It's like 19 or 20 in that ballpark. Or it depends on where students rotate during the day and everything else. So I'm trying to give you a general picture of the elementary. We have basically right now the average class sizes that are in the middle. I told you I really watched 26, 27. With the projected growth coming, that's where we're at. Still looking at class sizes. I think our biggest one, if I recall, is 24. I put down 4 teachers. By then, we would go to 4 teachers. We have 1 grade right now with 3. Because that number of teachers, we would go to 4, and that's where you're at. The other thing to remember, too, that we do better here at this school than most districts do, we still have aides in grades K1 and 2 to help our teachers. And actually, some of them have more than 1 aide when it comes to it. We have always, too, if we have a tough class, done what we can to add an aide to that classroom too. When you end up with 2 individuals in that class of 24, that's huge. Obviously it's huge. So that is a big part of what we do. So that's where we're at in terms of elementary numbers, real numbers with growth. Then I'll start talking building-wise. That comes up to that 190 something or whatever I was talking about. When you start projecting out all the way to 31, 32, if you look at the numbers in the parentheses, if I go to my first marker, I should say, the 26, 27 in this building, I'm up 59, 60 kids. Give or take. It's always give or take a few. But remind you, I told you I could take 120 tomorrow in here if I needed. Even when you go that far out, we're at 90. Now, we will start planning for different growth because there is another caveat coming up. The middle school actually is an anomaly. Middle school kids come and go. Do I think we'll still be up? If Mr. Davis tells me we're still going to be up 12 kids in the 6th grade by the time they leave 8th grade, probably not. I would love for it to be, but that happens a lot in the middle school. There's a lot of movement in the middle school back and forth. And then high school you don't see as much growth at the high school level simply because once you start high school, you're normally involved in some sort of ECA, whether it's athletics, band, whatever, and it's much harder to transfer high schools. So high school numbers stay pretty darn consistent when it comes to it and when we look at different numbers. But please take a look at where we'd be. Right now, the projected growth with the 4 neighborhoods, and I'm going to explain why this happens before we go into what we're doing with the buildings at the high school and everything else, and then we'll do safety for a minute. Here's something to think about, which is awesome about Sheridan. The best part, the biggest challenge, and the best part I have over these next 10 years are the sheer fact that we have an awesome heritage here in Sheridan. We have so much history here. Some of you in here are 5th and 6th generation graduates from Sheridan, and a long history. I have to prepare for growth, but keep that history here. I have to prepare for growth, welcome new people, and keep that history here at the same time. I know that. But part of what we also don't grow as fast for are, and many of you are in this room, and many of you I know, when your kids graduate, you don't leave your house. You stay in Sheridan because it's a great place to live. And when you stay in Sheridan, that's one less house that I can have kiddos in. That's where these new houses are really just kind of balancing out what we already have at this point. I always compare, this is my cheesy comparison, but this will make sense. To grow quickly in a district, you basically have to have 2 kindergartners for every senior that graduates. And I'll be up front, there's districts around us that's what was happening, and that's why they grew so fast. Sometimes you get 3 to 1. That's how you really grow. When I say it doesn't mean just kindergartners, but you get what I mean. A graduate to 3 new bodies in the district. The problem, and what we have here, and it's a great problem to have, I always count it as more or less, we grow here at about a 2 to 1.5 rate. And that halves because many of you have graduates and you don't leave. So who's filling these new houses in many cases are your kiddos that went to college and came back I just said the other day, we had welcome back to school night for the elementary. I'll bet you 3/4 of this building were I felt so old, 3/4 were people I had in 7th grade when I was here teaching a long time ago. But they've all moved back here. I know half of you guys are smart because you're some of them that are in here, yes. That's what happens here. So that also slows our growth because we don't have the availability of homes to the magnitude that others have going up to, if that makes sense. So what are we doing though at the high school, if you will, Lee, please? Oh, I'm going to go to this actually. Here's what I can't control. And this is my one anomaly. And this is the one thing I will tell you that if I'm going to have anything I say tonight that makes my belly turn a little bit, we all seen that they've already, because that's my path, by the way, they've closed down the road, and when you start going out to Baker's Corner, it's closed down right now. They're doing the overpass, and then after that, the county, who is awesome people, and I will tell you they have been great at giving me information. The county is putting that area in, along 31 in Baker's Corner, which means that area can move a lot faster than our other homes are going to move. There's a couple anomalies that we're watching that would change pretty much everything I just showed you. First of all, I will tell you, anything going on out of Baker's Corner or 31 corridor is not in our demographic studies. It is not. The other things they're looking at out there, and all this is proposed, please, right now. None of this is set in stone. None of this has been, given away and voted on, everything else, but it has been discussed. The 31 Baker's Corner corridor, the biggest discussion is there is one proposal that could put 1,000 or 1,100 homes out there. No matter, and I'm not getting, this is though I say, remind you, I am not political on this part. But right now, whether that's township, whether Westfield annexes it, or whether Sheridan does, regardless, it is Sheridan School District. What people don't realize are we are not bound by town and township lines. Sheridan School District is Sheridan School District is Sheridan School District no matter what. 1,100 homes does make me nervous. I mean, that is where we'll start playing. Now, here's where the difference there, though, is. That 1,100 homes is also, you're looking by the time it starts affecting us, which is a good part in planning, and I just spoke to them today to confirm I could say this. By the time that would really start hitting us with lots of people, would be about 10 to 12 years. I mean, so you see where all my numbers are correlating to about a 10-year issue that I got. And that is where some of you will be here, the high school people, you may not see some of this till we go, but the elementary may see some. So please know, anything I'm saying, I have nothing set in stone on the Baker's Corner 31 corridor or where that's going to go. And if you want to talk, I can tell you a lot more about this, because really this is very similar to a situation we had when I was in Westfield. If you guys know the area, I got tripped for the first time. All the areas that are just north of Clay Terrace and everything else. But I'm not going to go into that tonight. I just want to be very clear. I don't want to lie to anybody. That is the one area I don't know enough about to be able to say what is going to affect us and where we go. So what are we doing? I know this is coming, and I know it's prepared. I already told you in the elementary building, go ahead if you will please. In the elementary building, I have 6 classrooms. By the way, when we built this building, it is built so at the end of the hallways, we can add rooms on this hallway too, by the way. This building is built to easily add on too. So in this building, we have lots of flexibility. Even if that Baker's Corner thing goes on, we have flexibility coming up. What are we doing at the high school? Well, obviously the high school, middle school, we have a whole lot going on. I want to be, because I get this a lot. We are not building a field house and the weight room and health rooms first because we only care about athletics and everything else. And I get that all the time, and I understand that. But when you're going to move massive amounts of people or larger classes, I need the field house so I can get everything out of the middle school gym, so that I can also build health rooms down there by the field house, so that I can have more classrooms, because currently our health rooms are in regular classrooms right now, to allow me to shift other stuff throughout the building. It also allows us to, it's what we need to do for the community. I won't lie about in the field house. The worst part about where we're at in terms of facilities and space for basketball, and some of you have it, we hate it when your kiddos have to have practice at 9 o'clock at night. But there's only so much space, and it does help with that. So the field house, the weight room, and the weight room's being added outside of where the existing weight room is, and health classes are the first move to help us start to get space. We also have some other things going on, so that's why I make sure I address it when it comes to this too. We are working, Mr. Davis and Dr. Hampton and I have been working a lot. The spacing at the middle school, we can change up some. What's the diagram going to be? I don't know. I know one thing I pushed, safety-wise, everybody, and I do too, I need to get that front office moved to the front of the building, and we're going to work on that in one of the designs we do coming up. But what we're doing right now is doing designs for the middle school, and we're doing all kinds of group drawings, gang, right now. We are, so you know. I will tell you that we've even done drawings up on the farm field of what it'd be like if we put a middle schooler. We are not building middle school. We are not building middle school yet, because that'll be everywhere by tomorrow. I did not say that. But we have done drawings and estimates just in case, you know, what we'd have to do, or what we would put up there, or what it would look like. At the middle school, we're doing drawings to see if we rearrange the gym into more classroom space. What if we rearrange that middle? If you've ever been in the middle school, the middle is a big triangle. It is not the easiest to redesign our middle school right now. At the high school, though, we get space back because we are working diligently on more internships for our kids. Juniors and seniors in most high schools are not in high school most of the day anymore. You know, they're out and about at internships and doing stuff. Plus, one of the things where we have learned over the last couple of years in COVID, we have more kids that want to take classes, singletons, as we call them, that we can't offer, that we can have kids online taking some courses, especially when you're juniors and seniors, especially college credit classes. So that when you go to college, you're getting a whole lot more paid for it. I've said this the other day. My daughter basically went to college, and she's basically already at the end of her sophomore year. She hasn't even been there just over a year is where she's been. That's what we're going to be pushing for some of our high school kids, and they've done a great job of helping with this. So that's kind of where we're at with phase 1 of construction. There is many phases, but I'll just touch on the others real quick too. Oh, go back to that last line, because that's important. Gang, I want to be very clear, and I will say this a million times over. We have been able to stay competitive with some of the stuff you see because our referendum has been invaluable to what we've done. There is not one thing we build that could go to teacher salaries. I promise you that if that field house could have gone to teacher salaries, we would not be doing the field house because we'd be giving it to teacher salaries. The one thing to think about when it comes to school finance, there are 2 categories. You have the category line that basically pays your bills and pays salaries, and then there's the category line that you basically pay to fix and build stuff. Unlike at home, your checkbook and savings, we can't mix them. No matter what we do, we can't fix them. And so right now, with some of the things going on, this account with some of the operations is very healthy for us in allowing us to do some of the projects, but we can't mix, so please know that. I get this, and that's the hardest thing for me to explain to everybody. At my last job, we were building a baseball diamond. My wife and I have been married for over 20-some years. I've been forced to do construction and stuff for over half my career. And the first time that my wife came to me, and this was 4 or 5 years ago, and blatantly asked me, all right, now explain to me again how come you can build a baseball diamond and not give us more salaries? What it hit me then is I can explain this till I'm blue in the face, and my own family didn't understand, how that works. But that's why I asked you on that. Trust me, if I could give it the salaries, I would, and we all would. So I wanted to make sure I didn't miss that. Go ahead, Lee, think. So where are we going on other stuff too? There are a couple things that are out there every day. We are totally redoing the auditorium. If you've been in our auditorium, it has not been redone since it was built, I believe, 1992. If not 92, it was 94. It was one or the other. So 92 or 94, we're doing upgrades. That came out of the fact we're trying to find the best way to help our band and choir programs, which, by the way, got ripped off at the state fair. They should have been in the finals, so I'm just throwing that out as a side note. Our band and choir are doing outstanding stuff right now, and we need to upgrade the facilities in there big time so that they can have their concerts and everything else. Softball, we have to move softball. We're hindering the rec program down there we love our collaboration with the rec program. It's great. But we need to move that back on campus so that the rec program can grow. We are hindering that from growing, in my opinion. That's what we're looking at doing. Soccer, we have to move back on campus too, because the town has plans for the field we're currently on. They have purchased that from us. They're being very nice and letting us use it for a couple of years. So those 2 projects will grow. And the other thing I would throw out in terms of just facilities before I turn it over to talk some safety stuff is if you've ever been out to our baseball diamond, that restroom facility needs to be turned into something that's not that. So we will be making a new restroom facility with storage outside. Those are some of the things we're currently working on. I say that is only a few. Mr. Davis and I, we have plans where we're going to build a foyer in the high school. We have plans for what we can't do yet. The reason I'm not sitting here and telling you what some of our new classrooms are going to look at the high school is because we have to finish aligning all the classes that we're going to bring in and know what the classroom needs to look like before we can start building that classroom, if that makes sense. So we have looked at all kinds of stuff in the high school. It's just we're nowhere near saying what it's going to be yet because we got to finish our alignment with stuff. Example, We have full faith, I think we're okay to say this now, we're going to start a renewable energy science class. We do happen to have solar sitting here and a whole lot of other great businesses. A renewable energy certificate leaving high school can allow you to very quickly walk into that field of work right now, and is a well-paying gig, when you go into that job too. All of this comes together. No matter what I've done, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hampton here, but the most important thing we have done this summer that I'm most proud of, working with Mr. Davis, who kind of turned it over to Dr. Hampton, we have done all kinds of safety. Because when it comes down to it, that's my job. My job is to keep your kids safe. I can do all these facts, figures, and numbers, but every admin, every person in here, our job is to keep your kids safe. So, Dr. Hampton, you want to talk for just a minute or two on some of the safety things we've done? Yes, sir.
Before you move on.
Absolutely.
So excluding the Baker's Corner 31
Yes, sir.
issue, because that's, as you mentioned, at least 10 years ago, and speculative at this point.
Yes, sir.
So within the next 10 years, what is the potential impact for the open enrollment students? Because as you alluded to a couple
Yes.
of times, if things get a little tight,
Great point.
the first one's on the chopping block.
We have no intentions of getting rid of them. I've had 2 questions brought to me, and I should have said that, so I apologize. I'm just moving case in point in terms of numbers in classrooms. I have 0 intentions, because those kids are outstanding. It's like I've been asked this too. The other thing I could do if I need to, we do have a daycare and preschool here that have classrooms that aren't school affiliated really. I'm not getting rid of those either. I helped bring that program here. I know I'm not getting rid of it. So thank you for saying that. That is not it. I'm just talking straight numbers. If all of a sudden, it's more if we hit a Westfield scenario and all of a sudden I got 700 new kids next year, I do have flexibility. But those kids, the majority of that 150, which is another point I didn't say, the majority of them, especially the high school ones, have been with us for quite a long time. And I would never do that to them. So thank you for reminding me of that. Is that good to answer your questions? Yes, thank you. I want to make sure. Dr. Hampton, you want to go a little bit on some school safety stuff?
Sure. I don't even think I need a microphone.
You have to because it's getting filmed, and I was told that, so. I just ruined your evening.
I don't think I've ever spoken in a microphone before, to be honest. Leslie Price, coming to us from Noblesville and kind of helping set up the Noblesville safety, the program there that they have has been instrumental with us here at Sheridan because she can bring her experience in. So one of the first things we did was sit down and kind of look at policies and decide what needed to be updated. We had some that needed to be updated, and we're going to go through those a little bit at a time. And those I'm probably jumping around slide to slide here, but I'm just going to wing it. So safety levels, that's one of the first things we looked at to be consistent with all other Hamilton County school districts. What that is for our emergency responders and for our teachers, if we would have some kind of event at the school where we needed everyone to be on the same page, it's basically a very easy color-coded 4-level system that all other school districts have. So it would be something, for instance, you might have heightened awareness. Maybe you have something going on in town and you're not on a lockdown in your building, right? These classrooms aren't locked down, but you want all the teachers and the students to know that we're on heightened awareness, that no one's going outside to play on the playground that day or until that's lifted. And then we have a shelter in place and then the lockdown. And that kind of goes into our Alice response training. I come to Sheridan with about 6 years of experience in my previous district working on safety with them. And we did Alice response training twice a year with our teachers. And before COVID hit, and I wasn't here yet at Sheridan, so Mr. Davis tells me that we did have a school district, we did have some trainers come in and start working with our teachers on Alice response training. That's that violent intruder training. What do you do? How do you lock down quickly? How do we keep our students and our staff safe as possible? And I know that's something where it's not something where we want to use a fear factor with that, but honestly, you guys are sending your children to us, and we want to make sure that we're keeping them safe at all times. And we want our staff to be safe. And part of that safety, so a few different things that go with that is that knowing what you're supposed to do. We don't want someone to have to think about what they have to do in a time like that. We want them to know what they're supposed to do to keep your kids safe. But with that also comes that situational awareness and the relationship building with your kids, with our staff members as well, as to know the difference. When someone's acting different, to be able to notice that about them and have those conversations. So it's that relationship building piece also. And the Alice response training, we're going to go ahead, but that response training, we're working on getting that set up for our teachers right now throughout the district. Actually, not just teachers. Every staff member in the district, with Officer Weir and some other emergency responders, will be training every staff member. So as we went through the district and spoke to all of our different employees, it's important to have our central office staff do it, our custodians, our maintenance crew, our cafeteria workers. Everyone needs to be involved in that so everyone knows what to do in something like that. Vape detectors. We did apply for a grant to install some vape detectors at the high school. We have them in the main hallway bathrooms, the south hall bathroom, and the athletic hallway bathrooms. And they don't just detect vape. So they also detect aggression, which we found out that the hand dryer set off, and we had to kind of work with those levels a little bit. So we had Mr. Davis and I were getting a lot of detection notices. It texts us what happens. It texts us and says aggression detected in south hallway, which was by Mr.
We have some aggressive hand dryers.
I think it was Mr. Moore. I'm not going to lie, but I think it was Mr. Moore. So it detects carbon monoxide. It detects someone that yells help. If they yell help loudly, it texts us that someone needs help. And then it detects gunshot as well. And then it sends it to any of the administrators in the building that's happening. Those were just installed, last week? Yeah, they were installed the week before, but they weren't actually up and running through technology until last week. So they finally got all of that all meshed together. I don't know how that's magic to me when all of the technology meshes with everything since it texts us. A camera audit. We did a couple different audits when Leslie came in with me. The camera audit was very important to us because we wanted to make sure that all of our exterior doors were covered. That when we get on our camera system, we can see every space that we need to see for safety reasons. So we did go through with Jake Popejoy and Leslie and I, and went through the building and decided the elementary is pretty good, and Ms. Roberts is back there. But the elementary just had their cameras audited, last year. And so they have some really cool fisheye cameras I got to see. And so we're going to install some of those at the high school as well, and work through that. We're pretty good at the high school. I think we added 11, right? 11, yeah. So the camera audit, we also did an audit, and I'll take this time to kind of touch base on that article that was written. We also did, in part of the audit with the cameras, we looked at safety film for our windows. Now, when he came to talk to us, obviously nothing's bulletproof, right? But safety film, basically, if you put it on your windows, it just gives you that added time to be able to respond. So if someone would shoot through a window, the safety film's on there, then it doesn't shatter, kind of holds that glass in place. Now the bullet goes through, but doesn't shatter for them to be able to enter as quickly. So all that does is just give people time to respond. We did an interview, and there was an article that was put out there that said we had already installed that safety film. We have not, but it is on a 3-year plan that we're looking at. We've kind of we organized what we prioritized for our building. Rekeying. This was important because I thought the door was locked earlier. I thought it was locked out, but it was actually open. And for all of our administrators and teachers to be able to have, I don't know if Mr. Davis has a set of keys, but would you like to show just a small portion of your keys for a day?
It gets in most places, not all.
It gets them in most places, not all, he says. So the important part about that, if there were to be an event at a school and we needed to get quickly into a room, he has to try and figure out which key gets him into which room, and that's problematic. So we want to break it down to where there are 4 different levels. So administrators, our front office staff, they have what we call a grandmaster, our maintenance crew, our SRO. They're going to have a grandmaster, gets them into any building, any door in the district. Then you have your teachers who have instructional space keys. And then we have, it goes down, we have our kitchen staff who we want to make sure that they have theirs secured as well. So we wanted to make sure that when we rekeyed the district, we did it right. And so it did take some time. We're still working on that. It has not been rekeyed yet. We're still looking at a time frame on that. It should be done this school year though. Badges and card readers. Lee Jessup is working diligently with us on the card readers and the badges too, and Miss Price prints those off for us. The badges and card readers are important because those are what are going to help us get in those door swipes easily. We have a few at the high school. We're working on getting them put on the most used doors though, so we're adding a few, 2 right now. But all of that kind of goes with, as Dr. Mundy will kind of go into later on, that new construction, because we have a lot of cameras that are being added in the new construction with a lot of door swipes. There are things that are being added, but until we get to that point, there were some things that we had to prioritize for now. So the badges and card readers were some of those things. As far as the badges and the safety levels goes, we also asked that the safety levels be printed on the back of those badges for our teachers, just because in the event, I don't know about you guys, but when there's something and our stress levels go up, we also don't always remember, so it's easy to have that visual for us to be able to see quickly. Those safety levels are also posted around the school so our kids can see them as well. So if we say that we're on heightened awareness, they know what that means. kind of talked about policies, our 3-year plan. That's kind of a work in progress at the moment. Leslie and I are still working on that and putting that together to see what, as the building project develops, that 3-year plan might sway a little bit on what's most important for us. That might be it for me. Do I have any questions about any of that fun stuff? I know I get the fun part.
She does. Actually, all kinds of credit. People don't realize the number of scenarios we talk through and everything. So the amount of work they've done with their team this summer. I say it this way. I was at Noblesville when all that went down and everything else, and we can talk about every scenario in the world. It really comes down to exactly what she said, how people react if, unfortunately, we are in a terrible situation like that. Because I will tell you, the one thing about the Noblesville scenario, everyone, every teacher, every IA, every custodian did their job that day, and they did it perfectly to what they were supposed to do. So that knowledge and awareness was the most important part of our day there, and that's what we're trying to make sure is happening here too. Yes, sir? We have. So what we're going to do over time. Right now there was an article, by the way, a little misleading article, I think it was out today, about adding some more money to the SRO program to kind of cover the cost. Right now we split the cost with a grant that we get. That article basically was just kind of covering up for the amount of money we've lost over the last couple of years. We are definitely looking at adding one here and there. It's in that 3-year plan. I'll tell you it is. The question becomes, how do we do some things? Jeff and I have been very upfront talking to each other how this program needs to evolve the next couple of years, because poor Jeff, he goes back and forth all day long. And yes, we will definitely be looking at adding one. The questions could be, what's the time frame on it? I have a general answer to give you, but I can give you, I think I know. So with safety, and a couple things to kind of wrap up. Like I said, we're right on our time right now, that I'm going to open it up for any questions you have. Here's something to think about, and this is where this rolls into that. When it comes to safety, it's really what it comes down to, and what Sheridan's great at, is taking care of your kiddos. That's what we're here for. That's what your teachers do. That's what our teachers are awesome at. We take care of kiddos, and that's how basically we're able to manage a lot of that goes on. I want to address, like this year, because I heard this scenario. We had 18, actually 19, one that happened recently, but we had 18 people leave us this year. And one of the people asked me, like, what's going on? You lost 18 teachers in 1 year? That's more, by the way, than we've had in the last 3 years combined that we lost. It's actually an amazing thing the way this worked out. Of the 18 teachers that we lost, the majority of them did one whale of a job sticking with us longer than they probably wanted to through COVID to get us through the last 2 years. And the majority of them retired. And then several of them then also too left to go to the next slide real quick, so I can go to that one, then I'll come back to this. Many of them moved, left education in general. Many of them just basically took other jobs. People don't realize, we get a lot of people out of Sheridan promoted to admin positions around because we do so much training and work with our teachers, and our teachers are awesome. Of those 19 teachers though, only one went to another local district. And that's an important fact to know, because if I had a whole lot going to local districts, that's an issue for me, big time. That means they're leaving to go across the border. And to be up front, that one that went to a local district went to go teach with his wife so they could be on the same schedule, and we were well aware of that. I mean, that wasn't a secret. He had told us a long time ago that's what he wanted to do. But the positive, go back up to the other one if you would, Lee, please. The positive we're having, though, we have people coming here that want to teach in Sheridan. Gang, I'm going to tell you as an HR person for a long time, there is a huge teacher shortage in the state. Huge. I am very proud to sit here and say that I think, and maybe 1 or 2 might be off, but of all the positions we filled, we had at least 10 applicants for each job as we went through. In this job market right now, that's awesome. We were even to, because our teachers in a couple of those interviews, when we thought we had the final 1 or 2, were kind of like, I don't think we want that one. In the past, because of job shortage, we would have had to panic and been like, well, if we don't get one, we might not get anybody. We were able to do that a couple times and wait, and then in both situations we did that, we got even a better person that came our way. So what you should feel proud of in teachers coming to us right now, we have many, many, many people that want to teach here, and that's awesome. Especially when you see where some of them are coming from. Those are local districts coming to us, which is a great feeling to have for us in Sheridan. We're able to do that because our culture with our teachers do a great job, our admin do a great job, and right now, the change in salary, we're competitive with those around us. And I will talk about, when I was here last time, in terms of salary, I worried about Western Boone, Clinton Central, and some of the smaller schools like us. The way they stay in the job market, now I compete with the Westfields, the Noblesvilles, and everybody else. We have to get the quality teachers. And I'm proud to say, because of this community's help, when we've been with referendums and everything else, we're able to compete with those around us. And that's been a huge mark for us to be. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't be doing this, I promise you that. One other thing I do, then we'll wrap up and ask questions. If you'll go down there, Lee, please. I get asked this all the time. It was me that was here when we did solar, and it was me that was here that was a big proponent of what we were doing. I'm going to go back to something I taught everybody earlier and why solar is so important to this district. I have 2 line items. Remember I said that? I get to pay bills and salary out of this one is what I get to do. Every dime I don't have to spend paying my electrical bill because of solar is money that helps me to keep those salaries competitive with those that are in Westfield and everybody else around us. I am happy to say those are real numbers. We have not got back, and I'm always clear on this. When you see that 1.3 million, that is literally how much money has been deferred that we haven't paid. All of you have homes, and you've all seen the increases the last couple of years on your electrical bills and everything else. Because we locked into this contract, and we're in it till the year 2048, we have not seen one increase, not 1 cent increase in our things. And I think right now, this is quick math, by the way, and this is not, I don't want to hold me to this number, but I think the overall increase that's happened over the last 5 years since we've done this is somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 19% that we would have been paying as a district that we have not paid 1 dime of so far. I just always point that out. The solar is important to us because it's less money we pay to electrical that allows me, that is one area that goes straight to salaries and other areas that affect your daily kiddos' lives when it comes to it. So I just want to bring that up today too because I get asked that a lot. And then we're going to go to questions, but we're going to go to, is this pretty picture time? Pretty picture time. That kind of shows you real quick, just because I want to show what we are building too. You're welcome to come by the way, I love showing it off. You can stop by and see me whenever you want. If I am not meeting with a parent or student, that means I have to do paperwork. So obviously, anytime you want to stop by, please do so, and I would gladly talk to you about anything that you want to talk about. That kind of gives you the X, is where the field house goes. The outside is the fencing, that's there. The X is the field house. The field house basically is going, if you go look at it right now, the pad's almost built. It'll be up there and it goes about to the back side of the bleachers. We will have to do some work on the high school bleachers coming up. And then the inside of what we have for it, so you can see, is basically, that's pretty darn close, not 100% accurate. So don't hold me to it if that sign changes or something. But there's basically 2 goals inside. The other thing that people don't realize that we don't have a very good picture of, we don't have room to like store and concession and lockers and all that stuff that are important. Like we need to be able to share lockers between our boys and girls team and have places for other teams to go when they come. That'll be in here. And the next picture I think is just the overall. There's a different view. It has bleachers. That is the walkway. If you could picture what that is, because everybody asks how are we going to get to it. So everybody that knows the high school knows right now the gate you walk up to go into football. Obviously we're connecting the left, we're connecting the right, that's what's connecting it. So there'll be a walkway down there. You will still walk up the same concrete path. There's actually doors that raise there that you'll walk in and go that way. So everybody keeps asking how we connect. That's how it connects, and that's what it'll look like for the ones that go together. And then I think the final one is the picture of just the new weight room we're putting together. It is, I will say that our athletic director has done a very good job of creating a room of what we need that's not elaborate, if you know what I mean. It's what we need and not something that we're building beyond what would be needed, but it is planning for growth as we're doing for everything. That's a whole lot in 40, and I'm always pretty darn punctual, so I told you 45 minutes to an hour, then we'd go to some questions or answer what I can. It's your time, I'll answer whatever we can, or if not, I have some really smart administrators that'll help me get through some of this too. And I know it's always interesting to see you. You're like family though, so you don't get to count first.
What percentage of buses have cameras on?
I believe all of them. We're at that point now, are we not? Every bus has cameras, at least 1, if not 2. Yes, and I believe right now we're up to 2, because actually we use them a lot. People don't realize that. We watch bus video a lot when it comes to it.
Because I've heard in the past now that something happened on the bus and they spent all this money to put cameras in the bus, but the camera wasn't working.
So I know where you're going. Some of that too is when I was here last time as well. We went with the first systems that went into buses weren't always the most reliable, and that's true. And even originals before that, for For a while, we even relied on tape that had to be rewound and done everything. The newer ones today that are all digital, you guys answer better than I. We barely ever miss anything on the camera. You had it today, you had it, and everything was perfect. I mean, not that I'm aware of, we don't miss it anymore. But that was a big issue on many of the original systems. The way everything's gone digital now, it works pretty darn well. Yeah. Great question. Anything else? Do you have a question? What is it? Well, we should turn that on before you have lunch tomorrow. I promise you we'll turn that on. And you know why? Because we have solar, and I'll make sure it gets turned on. How about that? Yeah! Anything else at all? Because that's really all I want to do is make sure we touch on stuff. Gang, here's what I'll leave you with. Please, you can come stop by anytime, or call me. Actually, you might want to call ahead of time because I do tour the buildings a lot during the day. But I will meet and talk to you about anything you want to talk about. Please know, this is the point of this meeting tonight. We know there's some growth coming. Please know we are doing everything in our power to plan and prepare for it. We know that we're going to have some challenges that are still unforeseen that won't be announced for the next couple of years. Because I think one thing I didn't say out loud, which you might have seen in the slide, the 38, 47 roads that get completed in 2025, the widening and all of that, that presents new challenges that we're going to be looking at and having to figure out, because that's a whole lot more cars moving a lot quicker through town. So we know that stuff's all there. But what I ask you to give us a grain of salt on, and if we don't know, I promise you we will find out. But we know the most important thing is this is Sheridan. I love this place. That's why I've been able to come back here several times and know that between our teachers, our faculty, our staff, we will do everything in our power to make this experience awesome for all of you. Will there be bad days? Yes, there will be. But for the majority of them, I will tell you this has been the best, and I'm not making this up because we're here tonight. I've told this to everybody. This has been the best start of a school year I've ever been a part of. And this has been awesome because our teachers were ready to rock and kind of get back to some normalcy this year. And it has been a wonderful year to start. So thank you for all you do, because we are a school system that gets more support than anybody. And we appreciate it. Do know that is not taken for granted. That's why I say I have to keep the history here when we do it. So thank you for all you do. If you got individual questions, we'll stick around. And you're going to be able to see some daylight before you get out of here tonight too. So it's beautiful out there. Thank you guys all so much for coming tonight.